Do you know what hasn't been overdone in the last 3 years to the point where it is utterly unsurprising that it continues and persists in cropping up? That's right, the continued attacks on straight, middle-class white men. Okay, I added middle class, but that's only because it's part of the title of the article we're going to be covering. Working class would also be appropriate. Hell, just straight white men. They seem to be a burden on society. I can't imagine why. Could it be because they're part of countries that are some of the most advanced in the Western world, or the world in general? Arguably, anyway. Based on some of the recent behaviour of middle-class white boys hiding behind those masks with Antifa, I'm sure there are many African and Amazonian tribes who are looking at them thinking, I'm better than you, because I don't need to scream at someone to get my point across. Although if the same Antifa middle-class white boys cottoned on, they could just use a spear. I mean, they're hiding behind a mask, so no one would know it was them, right? And they are, after all, fascist, so surely just murdering outright would be the next reasonable step. In any case, charities are, quotes, too white, too male, too middle class. Review says diversity in recruitment and promotion should become a priority. Britain's charities have an appalling record of recruiting and promoting ethnic minority staff to senior roles. The former head of the NSPCC has warned this leads to the perpetuation of a white male middle class leadership. You don't suppose it's because they've earned the jobs, do you? In an interview with The Independent, Pulitzer Prize winner right there, Dame Mary Marsh, who has conducted a government review into skills and leadership in the voluntary sector, said that too many charities were still using informal internships to recruit new young staff rather than formal recruitment processes. I wonder if that has anything to do with the fact that charity shops generally hire volunteers, and apparently those that want to volunteer the most happen to be white, and as this country is still, because they have yet to be bred out of existence, a white majority country, it is hardly a surprise. Maybe there's a cultural aspect to that as well. One does have to wonder who the more generous people are. Hell, in my town, they have recruitment processes for charity shops. Simply put, they have a sign in their window that says, we have a job. You won't get paid for it, but we have a job. And if you're forced to by the job centre, you take the job that you never get paid for. Because the job centre's there to help you, everyone. 4 years unemployed, everyone. Consecutive. Totes. Helpful. In any case, when it comes to how people go about applying for work with a charity shop, surely the charity shop should just be grateful somebody is there to help them, regardless. Starting up a recruitment process that then means you have diversity quotas, which is essentially what you're going to try and argue. Or then say that the charity needs to have gender quotas as well. You're only going to start a path of people not earning their job. Even in unpaid work, there is a hierarchy. If you didn't earn it, and people find out, people don't want to trust you, because they don't think you're as good as someone else. She warned that this had created a situation where charities had become overly middle class and underrepresentative of the communities they served. She called for a new charity-wide recruitment strategy, modelled on Teach First, the government's successful strategy to widen participation in teaching. I might be the wrong person that thinks this, but as far as representation in communities they serve, no one cares. But also, you are basing it on an assumption that people within those communities had or had not applied, or more importantly, had applied, but had been unsuccessful, in favour of a white middle-class male. And to be clear here, race should never be an issue within communities you serve. We have MPs that serve constituencies. Do you believe that that MP truly represents all the different communities within that one constituency? Or possibly two? It depends on how many towns and borders and populations and such. But my point is valid regardless. There are some people, by race or by culture or faith, that separate themselves into their own communities. Those are the people you're never going to be able to appeal to, because they have then separated themselves. They're the same people that moan about gentrification, and treat it as if it is a bad thing that suddenly those trashy neighbourhoods look nice again. Oh, and that some pesky white people did it, and moved into it. I'm starting to sound like Blonde in the Belly of the Beast, aren't I? Well, isn't it lucky I'm not white? I'm blue, can't you tell? Under such a scheme, charities could pool their recruitment of entry-level jobs to encourage a greater diversity of candidates and provide centralized support and training. For charity shop, honestly, I feel like you're looking to make a mountain out of a molehill, and in this instance the molehill is essentially work for free. Successful recruits would then be placed in charities either in a permanent position or in a rotation to provide greater experience. I'm not sure people that want to work for charity, if it's unpaid especially, want to do that. I think they just want to go to their local charity, help out, and then go home. Dame Mary, founding director of the CLAW Social Leadership Program, said the current recruitment process for many charities was not good enough. Yeah, charities, get up to scratch, get good, scrub. You've got to hire better volunteers, more diverse volunteers. You have to actually look at the people applying to work for you for nothing and say, yeah, no, you don't match the colours we need on this home-based colour chart. You're just not the right kind of brown. Anecdotally, I think it is true that are too many white middle-class people going into charities because they know their way around the system. It's not been open to all, and it is people from the communities that we are seeking to serve that we should try to recruit. We ought to want those communities to be a part of our workforce, and I think they are underrepresented. Well, then you need to make people from the communities that you want to serve understand that working for nothing really, really helps them. Granted, actually working for a charity shop, regardless of the lack of pay, is good, but also shows a mentality of wanting to help other people, and I totally understand and respect that. But in some places, people don't want to do that, and you've got to find a way to make it appeal to even my generation weren't interested in working for free. But that whole idea of charity is very hard to instill upon people who are quite entitled. And I'm not saying that as a typical cliche millennial thing. I'm saying that as people thing. It's really basic people stuff. Really complex, I know. In our leadership, diversity is very, very weak. The gender diversity might seem on the face of it to be a little bit better than some other sectors, but it's not hugely better, and the only way to make it better is to make sure every single bloody race and every single bloody gender and every single bloody sexuality is totally represented. Look at the chairs of charities. The chief executives, the finance directors, they're mainly men, probably because they earned their positions. Do you want to now go and tell them what that Professor Pippa Harron said that white men should do in academia? And simply resign. Yeah, I didn't forget about Pippa Harron. Turns out she wasn't a Poe and she's still a retard. Congratulations. It's a big issue for us. We are missing the talent that we should have. Look at the black and minority ethnic profile of the sector. It's appalling. We have very, very few people from a diverse range of ethnic backgrounds in our senior leadership. Well, don't you already think that if they're not even at the base level, because somehow you haven't managed to encourage them to want to do stuff for free, that you're not going to get them to want to then work their way up a ladder that had fuck all benefits at the bottom? Would you do offer them staff discounts in a charity shop? She added that the only way to change the situation was from the bottom up, which had been done by some charities such as Cancer Research UK, but was not widespread across the sector. You can fret about diversity all you like at senior level, but unless you build the pipeline, you never change it. Teach First drew a wider range of people into teaching than was ever the case before it was created. It provided a supportive way in and showed people that teaching was a valuable thing to do, even if it was just for a while. And I maintain, in this country, that diversity and this continued need to bleat on about mere representation is totally redundant in this country. We are, and we firmly believe, in meritocracy. And I'm starting to believe that I might have been right and Styx, Hex and Hammer also right when he stated, and I also have said in other ways, that if you're so interested in getting the best results, that it should never be about race. You should simply do a double blind. No names, no genders, no races. Just the application. You won't get the result you want, but the very best people will work for you. And for a charity to raise money, that's what you want, surely. Not the constant need to pander to everyone, because apparently the hue of someone's epidermis is so fucking important. important, said no one in current. Now, quite frankly, I could go on about this all day, but honestly, I don't particularly care about this program. I know that the government is considering a response to Dame Mary's review, and I think it is quite interesting trying to use something that has been employed somewhere else and somewhat successfully, but I've never liked this idea of separating people by race. I just don't like it. But people do that, and that's why we have communities, because people have separated themselves by race. The only one you're not allowed to talk about are those pesky white people, but it's okay. In 50 to 100 years, they won't be a thing anymore, because they would have been fucked out of existence. You're all welcome? Yeah. Anyway, before I finish, there are a couple of things I want to talk about. Well, firstly, I have recently started game streaming again on my game channel Omegon Plays, where I recently streamed some Vermintide. If you're at all interested, I've linked it below. Second, and finally, I am hopefully going to be streaming this Thursday on the Cthulhu-Kin and Friends show, but as there's no Prime Minister's questions, I have no idea what political subject I'm going to cover. So watch this space and hopefully I'll come up with something interesting, as I do intend to keep that channel political. So I hope everyone has a lovely Monday, and thank you all for listening.
Oh, goddowns.
In your arse.
Imagine my shock